Canceled and crushed, the 14 darkest secrets Hollywood tried to bury forever. Have you ever wondered what truly happens when the untouchable gods of pop culture violently plummet from their golden pedestals? We are sold an intoxicating illusion of absolute perfection, a glittering reality where immense talent and astronomical wealth shield our favorite stars from consequence. But behind the multi-PR machines and velvet ropes lies a chilling, merciless industry that will instantly annihilate its own creations to protect the bottom line. What you are about to read isn't just a collection of scandals. It is the terrifying, unfiltered reality of fake power and its devastatingly real price. From legendary, Oscar-winning directors harboring toxic bigotry to beloved daytime television queens fostering environments of pure psychological terror behind closed doors, these are the highly guarded, catastrophic truths that Hollywood prayed you would never uncover. Prepare to look past the blinding lights and discover the shocking secrets of 14 monumental empires that were completely reduced to ashes in the blink of an eye. Harvey Weinstein, the ultimate architect of the independent film boom, this tyrannical producer ruled the entertainment industry with an iron fist for over 3 decades. He possessed the seemingly omnipotent power to make or break careers overnight, bullying studio executives, terrifying directors, and turning relatively unknown actors into Oscar-winning royalty. Through his massive companies, Miramax and the Weinstein Company, he amassed an astounding 81 Academy Awards for his films, essentially holding the entire town hostage to his aggressive demands and monstrous temper. However, this absolute power was a horrifyingly toxic illusion constructed to shield a decades-long pattern of severe predatory behavior. When the devastating investigative reports from the New York Times and the New Yorker finally broke in late 2017, the dam violently burst. Over 80 women bravely came forward, completely exposing his empire of intimidation, sexual assault, and institutional cover-ups. The backlash wasn't just a scandal. It birthed the global Het's Me Too movement, fundamentally altering the global cultural landscape forever. Hollywood, an industry that had hypocritically applauded him and enabled his monstrosity for years, aggressively turned its back. He was stripped of his Academy membership, his massive company was forced into bankruptcy, and his prestigious legacy was instantly incinerated. The criminal justice system ultimately delivered the final blow. He was convicted in both New York and Los Angeles, receiving decades-long sentences that ensured he would likely never walk free again. The man who once sat front row at the Oscars, intimidating the biggest stars on the planet, now resides in a tiny prison cell. His catastrophic downfall serves as the ultimate chilling reminder that no amount of box office dominance or golden statues can eternally protect an empire built on the systematic abuse of the vulnerable. Will Smith, for over 30 years, he was the absolute, uncontested king of the summer blockbuster and the most universally beloved superstar on the planet. From conquering the rap charts as the Fresh Prince to saving the world in Independence Day and Men in Black, his brand was built on flawless charisma, relentless positivity, and an impeccably curated, family-friendly image. He was the golden goose of the studio system, generating over $9 billion at the global box office. But in a horrifying, completely unscripted fraction of a second, during the 2022 Academy Awards, that carefully constructed, multi-billion-dollar illusion violently evaporated. Just moments before winning his long-overdue Best Actor Oscar for King Richard, he marched onto the global stage and violently slapped presenter Chris Rock over a joke directed at his wife. The sheer, terrifying audacity of the assault, broadcast live to millions, left the world in a state of paralyzed shock. The real price of that momentary lapse in sanity was catastrophic. Hollywood, terrified of the toxic PR nightmare, immediately hit the brakes on his career. Major studios frantically paused his upcoming projects. Major streaming platforms quietly shelved his films. And the Academy banned him from attending their events for an entire decade. The man who desperately wanted to be perceived as an ambassador of love and light, had terrifyingly revealed a deeply unhinged, violent entitlement. While he is slowly attempting to claw his way back into the public's good graces with franchise sequels like Bad Boys, Ride or Die, the bulletproof armor of his nice guy persona is permanently shattered, proving that even the brightest stars can burn their own kingdoms to the ground in a single, devastating moment. Mel Gibson. He was the rugged, blue-eyed titan of the 1980s and 90s, an invincible action hero who seamlessly transitioned into a visionary Oscar-winning director. With massive generation-defining franchises like Lethal Weapon and Mad Max, combined with the staggering, unprecedented box office dominance of The Passion of the Christ, his industry clout was practically godlike. He operated entirely on his own terms, financing his own epics and defying traditional studio constraints. Yet, the dangerous illusion of his untouchable power brutally unraveled during a horrifying 2006 DUI arrest in Malibu. In a deeply terrifying, alcohol-fueled rant, he unleashed a torrent of vicious anti-Semitic slurs at the arresting officer, exposing a dark, profoundly toxic bigotry that Hollywood could no longer ignore. The fallout was immediate and absolutely catastrophic. Once the most bankable star in the world, he became an overnight pariah, heavily blacklisted by the very executives and agents who used to beg for his time. The nightmare escalated further in 2010 when highly disturbing, leaked audio recordings revealed him aggressively verbally abusing and threatening his ex-girlfriend. His top-tier talent agency immediately dropped him, and major studios completely severed ties. For an entire decade, the doors of A-list Hollywood were firmly slammed in his face. While he eventually staged a cautious, critically acclaimed comeback with the war drama Hacksaw Ridge, earning him a Best Director nomination, the deep, ugly stains on his character remain visible. His devastating fall from the absolute pinnacle of cinematic royalty remains a brutal testament to the fact that immense talent cannot forever shield you from the consequences of pure, unadulterated hatred. Kevin Spacey. With 2 Academy Awards and a terrifyingly brilliant theatrical pedigree, he was long considered one of the greatest, most fiercely respected character actors of his generation. He commanded the screen with a chilling, magnetic intelligence, most notably anchoring Netflix's massive, industry-shifting flagship series, House of Cards. As the vicious, calculating President Frank Underwood, he perfectly embodied the intoxicating nature of absolute power. But the terrifying irony was that his real-life behavior reportedly mirrored the predatory darkness of his fictional counterpart. In the explosive, culture-shifting autumn of 2017, the facade violently crumbled when actor Anthony Rapp accused him of a horrifying sexual advancement that occurred when Rapp was only 14 years old. This initial allegation immediately opened a massive, devastating floodgate. Dozens of young men, including crew members from his own television set, came forward with deeply disturbing claims of groping, harassment, and gross abuses of power. Hollywood's retaliation was unprecedented, swift, and utterly merciless. Netflix completely fired him from the hit show he had built, literally rewriting the final season to kill off his character. Director Ridley Scott executed one of the most astonishing pivots in cinematic history, spending millions to digitally erase him from the completed film, all the money in the world, and entirely reshooting his scenes with a different actor, Christopher Plummer. He went from commanding the Oval Office of television to facing multiple, grueling criminal trials across the globe. Although he was acquitted in massive legal battles in both the US and the UK, his once pristine reputation was completely incinerated, proving that the industry will rapidly amputate even its most talented limbs to save itself from a toxic infection. Ellen DeGeneres. For nearly 2 decades, she was the undisputed, dancing queen of daytime television, deeply beloved by millions for her seemingly endless generosity and her famous, uplifting sign-off, "Be kind to one another." She had broken massive cultural barriers by bravely coming out as gay on her sitcom in the 1990s, eventually building a multi-million-dollar daytime empire centered entirely on positivity, celebrity pranks, and heartwarming philanthropy. She was a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, an A-list confidante, and a trusted daily presence in American living rooms. However, the wholesome, squeaky clean illusion she sold completely shattered in 2020 when explosive, highly detailed investigative reports revealed a terrifyingly stark contrast between her on-screen persona and the dark, deeply toxic reality of her workplace. Dozens of former and current employees exposed a deeply hostile environment plagued by intense bullying, racial microaggressions, and severe sexual harassment by her top executive producers. She was accused of ruling through fear, explicitly forbidding staff from making eye contact and cultivating a miserable, deeply hypocritical culture. The public backlash was swift and completely merciless. The internet turned against her overnight, launching massive cancellation campaign that heavily eroded her viewership and destroyed her lucrative brand deals. Forced into a humiliating, deeply uncomfortable on-air apology, the damage was already terminal. Unable to salvage the Queen of Nice narrative, she officially ended her show in 2022, walking away with her massive fortune but leaving behind a completely decimated legacy. She discovered the hard way that you cannot aggressively market kindness while allegedly fostering cruelty behind closed doors. Charlie Sheen. He was the highest-paid actor on network television, raking in an absolutely staggering $1.8 million per episode for the massive comedy juggernaut 2.5 Men. Armed with undeniable comedic timing and a wildly famous Hollywood pedigree, he possessed the rare ability to turn his very real, deeply publicized bad boy antics into highly lucrative ratings gold. For years, network executives happily turned a blind eye to his chaotic personal life. His profound substance abuse issues and his multiple run-ins with the law, simply because he was generating billions in syndication revenue. He genuinely believed his own mythology, convinced that his warlock blood and tiger blood made him completely untouchable by standard rules. But the illusion of his supreme television power spectacularly self-destructed in early 2011. In a deeply terrifying, highly public, and severely manic meltdown, he aggressively attacked the show's powerful creator, Chuck Lorre, via unhinged radio rants and bizarre internet videos. He demanded massive raises while visibly deteriorating in front of the entire world. The network, finally realizing he had become an uncontrollable liability, did the unthinkable. They fired their biggest star at the absolute height of the show's success. He tried to spin his termination into a bizarre, viral, winning comedy tour, but the reality was deeply tragic. The industry rapidly distanced itself from his chaotic orbit, and years later, his heartbreaking revelation of his HIV-positive added a somber layer to his manic downfall. His story is the ultimate Hollywood cautionary tale. No matter how much money you print for a studio, you become entirely expendable the second your madness threatens the bottom line. Roseanne Barr. She was the loud, unapologetically brash, working-class heroine who revolutionized the television sitcom in the late 1980s by aggressively portraying the gritty, deeply realistic struggles of a blue-collar family. She commanded staggering ratings and built an absolute television empire that made her a highly influential cultural icon. Decades later, she achieved the impossible, a massively successful, highly anticipated reboot of her legendary show in 2018, which debuted to absolutely astronomical, record-breaking numbers, proving she still held immense, unparalleled power over Middle America. She was even personally congratulated by the President of the United States, completely convinced that her massive ratings made her utterly untouchable by the modern rules of the industry. However, her aggressive, highly volatile addiction to Twitter proved to be her ultimate catastrophic undoing. In a deeply shocking middle-of-the-night tirade, She posted a vile, aggressively racist tweet comparing a former black government official to an ape. The blowback wasn't just fast, it was an absolute corporate execution. Within hours, the president of the network brutally canceled the biggest show on television. The entire cast and crew publicly condemned her, and her massive talent agency fired her immediately. To add to the extreme humiliation, the network didn't just cancel the show, they entirely stripped her from her own creation, killing off her character via an off-screen overdose and renaming the series The Conners. She literally lost millions of dollars and her entire legacy in less than 140 characters, brutally learning that corporate tolerance for overt bigotry is absolutely zero, regardless of how much money you generate. Amber Heard. She was positioned to be the next great untouchable blonde bombshell of modern cinema, starring in massive blockbusters like Aquaman and heavily securing lucrative global beauty contracts. Following her highly publicized divorce from Johnny Depp, she aggressively positioned herself as the brave, defiant face of domestic abuse survival. By penning a powerful op-ed in the Washington Post, she commanded immense cultural power, heavily aligning herself with the explosive Me Too movement and becoming a highly sought-after speaker on women's rights. She believed the court of public opinion was entirely hers to wield. However, that immense perceived power was subjected to a brutal, microscopic, and globally televised dismantling during the catastrophic 22 defamation trial in Virginia. For 6 agonizing weeks, the world watched as a completely different, deeply disturbing narrative emerged. Crucial audio recordings, heavily contradicted testimonies, and highly damaging character witnesses painted a picture of a deeply toxic, mutually volatile relationship, where she was frequently the alleged instigator. The internet turned into a vicious, highly organized weapon against her, churning out millions of viral videos mocking her highly emotional testimony on the stand. When the jury predominantly sided with her ex-husband, finding that her claims were fundamentally false and defamatory, the Hollywood establishment immediately froze her out. The sheer toxicity of the trial completely eclipsed her acting career, forcing her to quietly retreat to Europe to escape the relentless global spotlight. The studio reduced her highly anticipated superhero role to a mere cameo in the sequel, proving that when the public violently rejects your narrative, the film industry will eagerly erase you to protect their profit margins. Jonathan Majors. His ascent was not just rapid, it was a deeply thrilling, meteoric explosion that had industry insiders hailing him as the next Marlon Brando. He was critically universally acclaimed, possessing a massive, terrifyingly imposing physical presence coupled with a deeply sensitive, Juilliard-trained emotional range. Marvel Studios didn't just cast him, they entirely restructured their multi-billion-dollar cinematic universe around his terrifying villain, Kang the Conqueror, promising him years of guaranteed, astronomical blockbuster dominance. He was heavily featured in massive ad campaigns and highly prestigious magazine covers, seemingly holding the entire future of the film industry in his massive hands. But the illusion of his unstoppable destiny violently crashed into a brick wall in March 2023 when he was arrested in New York City on deep, shocking charges of domestic violence, strangulation, and assault against his girlfriend. Almost instantly, the heavy iron doors of Hollywood began to slam shut. His management company aggressively severed ties, massive PR firms abandoned him, and highly lucrative advertising campaigns were immediately pulled from the airwaves. The agonizingly drawn-out trial exposed highly disturbing audio recordings and text messages that shattered his deeply intense artistic persona, revealing a man obsessed with intense control and erratic behavior. When a jury officially found him guilty of reckless assault and harassment, Marvel Studios executed a swift, brutal execution of his contract, firing him on the very same day. The devastating loss of the biggest franchise on the planet overnight serves as a terrifying, absolute warning that Hollywood will instantly destroy its most valuable investments the second they become criminal liabilities. Katherine Heigl. At the peak of the 2000s, she was the absolute undisputed queen of the modern romantic comedy. Following her massive breakout on the highly successful medical drama Grey's Anatomy, she starred in the massive smash hit Knocked Up, commanding astronomical salaries and highly coveted magazine covers. She wielded immense power, deeply beloved by audiences for her sharp comedic timing and classic, stunning beauty. But she fatally confused her temporary box office clout with the right to completely disrespect the incredibly powerful architects of her career. She notoriously, aggressively bit the hand that fed her, publicly slamming Knocked Up as Hephalexit and openly criticizing the writing on Grey's Anatomy, famously withdrawing her name from Emmy consideration because she claimed the material wasn't good enough. In an industry built on deeply fragile egos and tight-knit relationships, her aggressive outspokenness wasn't viewed as brave. It was labeled as highly toxic, entitled, and profoundly difficult. Shonda Rhimes, one of the most powerful showrunners in television history, practically blacklisted her, explicitly stating she didn't tolerate her behavior on her sets. The devastating backlash was slow but absolutely lethal. Major studio executives completely stopped calling her massive multi-million-dollar movie vehicles began to brutally flop, and she was aggressively pushed out of the A-list circle. Her tragic career trajectory is the ultimate lesson in humility. If you publicly humiliate the powerful writers and directors who built your throne, they will systematically and brutally dismantle it while you watch. Armie Hammer. Blessed with towering height, chiseled, old Hollywood good looks, and immense generational wealth, he was the quintessential, tailor-made leading man. From his breakout dual role in The Social Network to the sweeping, Oscar-winning romance of Call Me by Your Name, he was being aggressively groomed for absolute A-list superstardom. He had the perfect wife, the beautiful children, and an incredibly prestigious acting resume. Yet, behind the flawless, billionaire-here facade lurked a scandal so deeply bizarre and terrifyingly dark that it completely paralyzed the industry. In early 2021, a massive leak of highly explicit, deeply disturbing, unverified direct messages violently shattered his pristine image. The horrific texts detailed profound, aggressive BDSM fantasies, extreme psychological manipulation, and shockingly, highly graphic cannibalistic fetishes. What initially seemed like a bizarre internet hoax rapidly escalated into severe, highly credible emotional abuse and violent sexual assault from multiple women. The visceral disgust and pure terror surrounding the scandal caused an immediate, unprecedented industry evacuation. His massive talent agency swiftly dropped him, his high-profile publicist quit, and major studios violently ejected him from massive upcoming projects alongside Jennifer Lopez and the production of the Godfather series. He was totally exiled, eventually found selling timeshares in the Cayman Islands to support his family as his wealth dried up. The sheer, terrifying extremity of his alleged private life completely obliterated his carefully cultivated golden boy status, proving that the darkest, most horrific secrets can violently dismantle even the most incredibly privileged and promising Hollywood dynasties. Ezra Miller. They were widely celebrated as a deeply fascinating, fiercely talented, and highly enigmatic force in modern cinema. Bursting onto the scene with highly acclaimed, deeply chilling indie performances, they rapidly secured massive, highly coveted franchise roles in both the Fantastic Beasts series and as the superhero The Flash in the DC Extended Universe. They wielded the incredible cultural power of being a highly visible, gender non-conforming fashion icon and a massive studio tentpole star. However, the illusion of their brilliant, quirky eccentricity violently devolved into a horrifying, deeply disturbing multi-year crime spree that terrified the public and completely paralyzed their studio bosses. The deeply alarming downward spiral included violent arrests for assault in Hawaii, highly disturbing allegations of grooming and kidnapped minors, aggressive burglary charges in Vermont, and utterly bizarre, cult-like behavior on a heavily armed farm. The sheer volume and absolute severity of the allegations turned them into a massive, highly toxic PR nightmare. Warner Brothers was trapped in an impossible, deeply expensive dilemma, sitting on a completed $200 million blockbuster, while their lead actor was essentially a massive international fugitive. While the studio eventually released The Flash, they completely sidelined the actor from all press and promotionals, heavily burying their presence to avoid further controversy. Unsurprisingly, the film suffered a catastrophic, historically massive box office failure. The industry quietly, efficiently shut the door on their highly promising career, proving that no amount of unique indie darling charm can excuse a terrifying, highly destructive rampage across the globe. Jussie Smollett. He was a highly visible, deeply beloved star on the massive, culture-shifting network drama empire. He wielded immense, highly important social power as a successful, openly gay black actor on mainstream television. Heavily praised for his vocal activism and musical talent, he possessed the incredibly valuable platform to affect real, deeply meaningful change in an industry desperate for authentic voices. However, in January 2019, he orchestrated what is widely considered the most bizarre, highly offensive, and completely destructive PR stunt in modern Hollywood history. He aggressively claimed to be the victim of a brutal, terrifying, racially motivated, and homophobic hate crime on the freezing streets of Chicago. The entire world, including massive A-list celebrities and highly influential politicians, violently rallied to his defense, pouring out immense oceans of sympathy. But the horrifying illusion quickly unraveled as diligent police work uncovered a completely fabricated, deeply meticulous hoax. He had literally paid two brothers to stage the attack in a desperate, deeply psychotic attempt to raise his profile and secure a massive salary increase on his television show. The betrayal was incredibly profound and deeply sickening. He hadn't just lied. He had aggressively weaponized the very real, terrifying trauma of marginalized communities for a quick paycheck. The industry reaction was absolute, total exile. He was violently written off his hit show, completely shunned by the industry, and ultimately dragged through highly humiliating criminal trials, resulting in jail time. He completely destroyed his own career and permanently stained his legacy, proving that the absolute fastest way to lose your Hollywood power is to arrogantly, aggressively fake a tragedy. Gina Carano. Transitioning from the brutal, highly competitive cages of mixed martial arts to the massive, multi-billion-dollar galaxy of Star Wars, she achieved a deeply impressive, incredibly rare Hollywood breakthrough as the fiercely loyal, highly imposing Cara Dune. On Disney's massive flagship series The Mandalorian, she was beloved by fans and actively being primed for her own highly lucrative, standalone spin-off series. She held the immense, highly coveted power of being an integral part of the most famous pop culture property on the planet, but she fatally underestimated the strict, highly aggressive corporate boundaries of the Mickey Mouse empire. She repeatedly utilized her massive social media platforms to mock highly sensitive social movements, heavily derided public health mandates, and aggressively spread controversial political conspiracy theories. Despite multiple deep warnings from studio executives to tone down the highly divisive rhetoric, she violently doubled down. The absolute breaking point occurred when she posted a highly offensive message, seemingly comparing the modern political climate in America to the terrifying, horrific realities of the Holocaust. The backlash was instantaneous and absolutely devastating. Lucasfilm executed a swift, highly public termination, releasing a brutal statement calling her posts abhorrent and unacceptable. Her massive talent agency dropped her the very same day, and her highly anticipated action figures were completely ripped from production lines. She foolishly believed that her tough girl persona made her completely immune to corporate standards, brutally discovering that Disney will instantly vaporize your entire career if your aggressive tweets threaten their pristine, family-friendly brand.